Shall I use... Oh, it does work. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. We've made it to the end of Industry Week, and we have got some amazing talks for you today. Welcome to your session with Victor. This is Victor Perez. He's wearing a Harry Potter jumper, so we can't get much better than that, guys. I didn't even ask him to, which is just incredible. He's going to talk to you about his work as a director and a VFX supervisor and how to achieve photorealism for VFX. You guys know what to do if there's a fire alarm, because I've told you about 8 times this week, but go outside, head to Brook Street, and don't scream. Remember to hashtag Industry Week 22. Actually, it's IW22, and you might win a £50 Amazon voucher, possibly. That's it from me. So can we give a warm welcome to Victor, please, guys?
Thank you. Hello. So can you hear me? Okay, good. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for spending the Friday morning with me. I'm very honored to be here. Especially I'm very honored because there is a very good friend of mine, which is Hugo Guerra, which is in the first line, and I feel pressure by him. Anyway, so let's start by doing art, okay? Let me just draw something for you. Now you are going to discover why I am a compositor and not an illustrator. No. I need a second attempt. What is this? A table. Okay. We can say that is a table. So how do you know that is a table? It's because it has the essence of what is a table, which is a surface and 4 legs. So this is representing a concept, the concept of the table. And it's something that everybody understands. Everybody that has ever seen a table understand that what I'm doing in here is representing a table. But that table is not very well drawn. Still, it's telling the story. So this is what I'm interested in every time I'm telling a story, is that giving the clues for the audience to understand the concept. Then, if I remove a leg, is this still a table? More or less. If I remove this is not a table anymore. This can be a pool. If we put this in here, this can be a pool. So by changing little elements of that concept, it's becoming entirely something different. So this is what I want to talk about in here. But instead of using something as simple as a table, we are going to use the most complex phenomena that we know, which is light. Light is so complex that even in scientific terms, there are 2 different theories to approach light, as waves or as packages of energy, photons. And the rules that are working for one are not working for the other. So light is something quite mysterious. Well, we are going to use a few concepts of that, but what I like the most about light is that there is a certain element of magic that we can use with light. We can bend the rules of perception. So let me just put a few examples of that. I have a packaging here of images that I love. For instance, let me read all of this. I'm using Nuke, by the way, live. I'm not preparing this. I'm too lazy to prepare in classes. So this image. This image, which is the Calling of St. Matthew by Caravaggio. This image has something very, very cool. Let me just get. So, no, don't put the light. Get the light here. So, have a look at this image. It is really cool. This is from Caravaggio. Caravaggio is one of the masters of light. If you see this picture and you look at that, this picture, by the way, is in Rome. It's in a small church, San Luigi dei Francesi, and it's just something that if you look at that, it can be like, yeah, well, it's cool, it's not bad. Good night. Can be a photograph be better than this? Well, better. What is better? Is resolution? Is quality? Well, this guy was using something very cool. If you look at the picture, in the picture you have a window, but the window is not casting light. The light that is coming in this picture is idealized. The light that is coming in here is coming above this figure in here that nobody in this scene is actually observing. If you look at the lines that the eye lines are doing, everybody's looking here, the hand, but nobody's looking there. This can be God that is telling St. Peter's, this is the guy that I want. So the light is coming from there. It's an illumination. So the light in here is in a mystical plane. So the storyline that Caravaggio is using is like the real light is not important in here. That's why he's painting in here a window. The light that I care about in here is the light of God, is the illumination. So it's been enlightened by God. So when I saw this picture for the first time, I was shocked because someone just pointed out this thing of the light not being real. And that is something cool. And we can actually apply these concepts to storytelling. I am a visual effects supervisor and a director, but what I'm most interested in is not pixels, is not painting beautiful frames or anything like that, because if I want to see beautiful pictures, I can go to the National Gallery, I can go to many other museums, but what I want is to create meaningful pictures. Pictures that make people change who they are. The experience of being changed after you watch a movie, that is something that is a catharsis. That happens to me, for instance. When I was very little and I watched for the first time The Empire Strikes Back, this thing that, for instance, when Luke tells Yoda, when he was lost with the X-Wing, you all know the story, I don't need to recall that. But when Yoda just pulled the ship out of the water, he said something that really marked my life. He said, I don't believe it. And Yoda answered, that is why you fail. That thing changed you. And the trick is really, really simple. It's just a miniature, a bit of compositing. And if you could look at the original version from those days, it's looking crap. The visual effects of the original Star Wars are really bad for today's standards. But we don't care about the edges or about the material that is done. We care about the story that is carrying. So that's why Star Wars is still today, more than 40 years after, is still very successful. It's still not dated because the story is just very simple. It's good against evil. It's how a very little group is just rebelling against the huge empire that is oppressing them. Is this resounding with something that is happening these days? We haven't evolved that much. So the stories that are being told these days are actually, the good ones are eternal because human beings are the same. So in terms of storytelling, we can do the same thing that happens, for instance, with the table from the very first age, which is this. This is one of the very first representations of a woman. So in here, you see the attributes that the people that was sculpting this kind of sculptures were seeing that a woman is made of. It's quite clear, I can see. Well, everybody that looks at this is a very small statue, something like this. Everybody knows this is a woman, but it's like the table. It took a bit of years of perfection, something like 23,000 years to get here, which is, you know, another beautiful representation of a woman with all the canons of beauty of that time. So the evolution is just in the form, but the representation is actually the same thing. We are just representing something that is going to tell, for instance, beauty. Those features in here are considered the beauty of the time. Well, you know, it's about fertility. We are going to more or less fashion ways, and we are going into a very animal thing. So in here, it's all about fertility. In here, we are getting refined. In here, we are telling another story. In here, we are starting to get shy about showing a naked body. And showing this, a boob, that is something like, wow, this is kind of pornography of the time. Seriously. So in here, everybody's, let's cover that, and it's a goddess. So this thing is like so naive. She was born like that. This is Venus. So she was born like this, so cool, so beautiful. So when we are analyzing the history of evolution in painting, that is the way we are telling stories. We are making the evolution of storytelling. The thing is like, today, every day, we are producing in every single day more photographs than the whole history of photography of the 20th century, just in one day. So imagine the speed that everything is evolving. And I'm not going to mention even Instagram for the popularization or TikTok or anything like that. So the mechanism of storytelling are changing really, really fast. But the essence is still the same. This picture, for instance, is really nice because someone is just saying, we can do perspective, man. We can put people in different planes. And this is the first example of that perspective thing. We are using a lot of perspective when we are going into visual effects. But this, yeah, is a technological advance in painting. But again, we are going back to Caravaggio. This is another painting by Caravaggio. And this is another thing that how color can tell the story. I invite you now to look at this picture. And I can tell you that this man has been working in the field. He has been working hard under the sun. How do you know that? Look at the hands. The hands are darker. The face is dark. But the body is pale. So this man has been working on the field and has been working cover, but the hands are uncovered. So this is telling you that this person, that is San Hieronymus, is someone that is not a noble, that is someone that has been indoors enjoying a fortune. Or no, this is a man that has been working. This is a man that understands poverty. So this is the one that is transcribing the Bible. So the storytelling in here is being told, but this time it's using color. It's just a slightly variation of color. It's telling me so much. That's why when you are looking at art, I love this thing, which is this effect. when you do that. But actually, this is what you should be doing when you are looking at this. This is what I understand now. It's like, oh, the hands. Why the hands are darker? And then you start triggering ideas. So art is not here to answer questions. It's here to put questions to the audience. So when you understand that you can bend light, that is when magic is happening, and visual effects is the master of that. So that's why it's the discipline that I love the most. So let me just introduce the table again, because we are going to stylize the concept. So this is the table that I was drawing. In my table, you didn't know if the table was metal or was wood or was, what's the material, what's the color? Well, it looks like white, but maybe you don't know how heavy it was. Here, this is from IKEA. It's a very, very simple picture just to showcase. There is no intention in here to tell a story. The only thing they want is just to sell a table. Okay, but we know that this is a table. But this is also a table. And look, in here, the concept has been convolved, because now the table is, first of all, is not having 4 legs. It's just having one long leg and the other is very small, but it's one the opposite of the other. The surface is glass. Okay. What about this? Well, in here, we are getting even more abstract. We can go even further with this. There are no legs in here. It's just one side that is bending and is acting like the body center of this thing. Until we get this, like, you know, octopus legs and something like an animal-like and plenty of legs, because why not? So this is the idea. You are telling a story. It's a very different thing. Someone who uses this table is a very, very, very different person than someone that eats at this table. I mean, I can imagine a Marvel evil guy eating here, not in here. I mean, Marvel villains don't eat at IKEA. So yeah, I cannot imagine Thanos just having like, give me the salt, something like that. So this is what I mean, is everything we put on the screen is telling a story. Bertolt Brecht, who was a theater director, says that there is no way you can put something on a stage that is not meaning something. Even the empty space is meaning something. So when I thought about that statement, and I realized that we and you, we are wanting to sell something quite fertile, which is light. We are selling light projected on a screen, or lately, light coming from a streaming platform in your TV, but it's still light. We are selling light. Light is very light, so it's not heavy at all. So we need to sell stories. The first thing that we know from human beings is that someone just one day just say, hey guys, I have been hunting outside and I got this beautiful elephant or something very big, and we were me and my friends, we were with our things, so let me show. And he was drawing in a cave, and he was doing that, telling the stories. And then someone came like, hey man, tell us again the story about, yeah man, I was with my friends and I was there, it was so cool, and then we have so much meat. And so the first thing we know about human beings is telling stories. So we are still doing the same thing, telling stories that inspire us, that tell us how is the world. But at the end of the day, we are telling the same stories. So how can we change that? So we can change that, how we are representing light. Light is the very essence of our job. So in here, for instance, I like this painting. It was the first time I was aware in the history of art of something that for people working in the visual effects industry are very used to, which is subsurface scattering. What is happening to light when it's getting inside and bouncing inside a material? Look at this wave. It's really remarkable. How light that is coming from here is actually hitting the sea. The foam is occluding, the light is passing inside. So there was a intention of the painter in here to tell something in there, to see through. Before, the water was something like this. It was these nice reflections, little waves. And still this painting is really relevant. This is from Canaletto. This painting is in the National Gallery in London. This painting is really cool because Canaletto has something really nice. He can paint huge crowds, but the way he paints the crowds to make you feel the light and the lighting of everything, sometimes you get faces. Let me just put a very good zoom in here. Sometimes you get faces that are just like this, a drop of paint. Just a tiny drop of paint is just telling me the direction of light. And when you put this on the big picture, something like this, you don't see faces anymore. You see a volume. You see the light that is bouncing. So as a visual effects supervisor, my work is just to make things to look like they have been shot there with the same camera, under the same lights, with the same lenses. Practically, the job of the visual effects people is just like the ninjas. We go, we do our job, we get off, and nobody notices. That is when you are working well. And still, there's people that is doing that. So that's why you don't know celebrities of visual effects, because usually they are invisible people. And that is what I like. I want to see the movie. I want to watch a movie, and I don't want to see, oh, wow, this music is really cool. Oh, look at the editing. Look at the photography. No, when the movie is good, you don't see the artifact of cinema. You see a story well told. So for that, now, what I want to do is I'm going to showcase how I analyze light. So for that, just let me get just a bit of a, I just need to config this. Sorry about that. So I'm going to show you how I take accountable light when I need to comp something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a few images. I'm just browsing for you can tell a joke or something. Just take me 30 seconds. So this image in here, yeah, let me grab this, and I grab another one. Living room, no, sunset. Okay, so these images, probably you know, because many of my students have used this shot in their show reel. I like this. It's really easy. Let me just give a bit of, much better. So this image has been created. This is a digital monster that has been created to be composited in here, okay? So what I'm going to do is, instead of doing this, that is quite boring because it's just flat sky, and I'm going to change the background. So I'm going to put this on a very different background. This thing. Let me just reformat this to another. this one. So if I put this image in here, the first thing is the lighting of this CG has not been created to match this light. So this is a problem. Well, it is a problem, but it's a very good opportunity to showcase what are the elements that I need to look into when I am replicating the light. And you will see that there is way more that you can do than that. Still, this is not an excuse for the lighters not to do their job well. Be clear with that. It's just an example. So what should we do when we are analyzing light? So the first thing is you need to understand that light is a very complex phenomena, and you need to understand light in three terms. Science, because of course, it's a physics element, so you need to understand the physics of light. You need to understand photography, and you need to understand storytelling. And the first two are not important, okay? But even if they are not important, you need to keep in consideration those, because if not, nothing is going to work. If I just put this in here, this is looking like a sticker. So we don't want a sticker in there. We want to believe that that was a monster that is huge in there. So for doing that, I created this. I don't know if you know, but this is something that I publish for free. It's on my social media. You can just search for that. It's a poster. And this is a mind mapping concept of light. So it's just having different aspects of light, depending from a more physical into more computer graphics, into more photography, and everything is linked together. So for instance, the inverse square law, the diffraction is something that is really, really important. Then in here we go to the renders. Mostly when I see compositing explanations about CG, everything is like, yeah, you put all of that together and you get the real light. No, you put all that together and you have the starting point, because then is when compositing starts. But this is strictly linked to this element, which is the journey of light, from the source to the subject, of course, keeping in consideration the source medium, the environment of the subject, the lenses, and the support. Can be digital or film. We will talk about that in a minute. Then the synthesis of light, everything that is, for us, like the most important thing. RGB together makes white. How we classify lights. So how we observe. When we observe in light, we need to ask ourselves, where is this light coming from? Is this coming from bouncing sources? Or is it coming from the source? What's going on in there? Surface normal. How is the surface? What is happening to the light when it's hitting the surface? How a camera is interpreting light. It's not linear. It's a very particular way of representing light. The components. This is something I learned from Hugo Guerra. So this is yours. So the depth of field, that is something that is very meaningful for lenses. So when we go up, we are going to start again talking about how much light is entering, up to get again to the inverse square law of light. This is a poster that I put available for free. Everybody can just print it or look it and just spend your life. I have been spending my life creating this to observe light. What I realized is that as a storytelling itself, even teaching is a storytelling. So I'm telling a story about light. So I really love the theme of the story behind the story. So what I like is asking myself questions. Most of the times, I don't have the answers, honestly. And even if I have the answers, pretty much they are wrong. But it's a process. If you start asking yourself questions is when you start learning. If you are doing something because it's cool, or you are doing something because someone else told me to do it in a tutorial, that is not learning. That is copy and paste of thoughts. Wisdom is not coming from learning. Learning is when you assimilate, you understand, you include it with your experience, and that becomes wisdom. Wisdom is something that we build on technique. That is something that we can share. And no worries, even me, I am 41, even if I look way younger. I am 41, and I still plenty of questions that I need answers. So every time I finish a shot, when I was a compositor, I remember I was feeling ashamed of my work when I was working and watching the film on the screen. Even in Harry Potter, when I see it's like, oh my God, how people is not realizing that it's wrong. Of course, because I have been looking at 6 seconds of the movie for something like 6 months, and of course I'm getting sick of that. So I know every pixel, and I take every pixel to sleep every night. Good night, pixel, good night, pixel. So I know them, I'm the father of them. So of course I know the defects, but at the end of the day, you need to realize that, is the shot telling the story or not? If the shot is not telling the story, it's weird, it's not working. Even if the edges are not great, Star Wars demonstrate that it's not about the edges. It's the big design that is working. And again, this is not an excuse for the compositor not to do the edges right, okay? But is when you are needing to focus on something that is not working, for the people that is in the industry, or even for you guys that have been maybe compositing something, there is one point when you are working, even not in compositing, that you are going to recognize yourself. Is this moment when you look at the screen and it's not working, but you have no idea why it's not working. And you look at that and it's like, yeah, it is correct. Everything is in the right place, but it's not working. That is the most dangerous part of the process. Because you have 2 ways. You can acknowledge that it's not working and who cares, they are paying me, it's their business. Or you can use that opportunity to understand why it's not working. It doesn't mean that you are going to solve it, be clear. But at least you know why it's not working. Edgar Morin talks about 3 levels of knowledge. The first one is the things that you know. And we are very cool about that because you know your stuff, you know what you are doing. That is very cool. Then there is another group, which is slightly uncomfortable, which is the things that you know that you don't know, okay? And you know what you don't know. For instance, I don't know how to skateboard because I don't know how to do it. If I jump into one of those, I'm going to kill myself, okay? But there is a third group that is the most dangerous of all. Is the things that you don't know that you don't know. And how can I put an example of things that I don't know that I don't know? Well, I cannot put an example of that because I don't know what I don't know. But when you are looking into an image that is not working, and it's not working and you don't know why, welcome to the third group. So your job as an artist is to get at least things from the third group into the second group. And once those are in the second group, you have a task that is very simple. Put it into the first group. That is the way we learn. But in order to understand from the third group to the second group, we need to understand what is not working. That's why I created this, in order to reflect. So now, in my experience, that I know that there are many things still that I don't know, every time I see something that is not working, I try to surround it. You know how we observe black holes? We cannot observe black holes. It is impossible. They are black in the middle of the darkness. The way we observe black holes is by understanding the surrounding stars. So when we see a star that is doing ring, and then another star in here that is doing ring, well, in here, there is a black hole because it's creating a disturbance in how we perceive light. So this is exactly what I do. I discover black holes in my composites. So when we are applying all of this, the more you apply, the more you are going to learn things that you don't know. So this poster in here is just an excuse for you to start digging. And I don't mind if you start here or there or here or whenever you like, but start somewhere. So when something is not working, that is the opportunity. That is the best case scenario that you can have, because it's really, really uncomfortable to see an artist that is looking at their screen in love, and they see, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And then you are the supervisor and you are looking at it, it's like, oh my God, that is not working. And it's like, it's beautiful. Because it's your baby. Your baby is always beautiful, but you have to be critic with your babies. You have to help them grow. So you are the baby at the end of the day. So you are the one that needs to grow. Let me put an example of this with this process that I'm doing in here. So a bit of hands-on. The first thing that I can observe, I like to use when I'm observing light. The first thing that I like is to analyze this. This is the journey of light, from the source to the support. So something that I like is the easiest, is the source medium. The source, of course. In natural light, the source is always one. Let me show you. Hello. Easy, okay? You know what? It's not true. It's not completely true, because we have two sources of natural light. And that is why photography is very important, because it is true. Strictly speaking, there is only one light. But have you noticed that even in night time, there is light from the sky that is coming? Well, in England, not that much, from the moon, when you have the chance to see the moon. And why? The moon is not, that is something that every child asks. Is the moon emitting light? No, the moon is not emitting light. The moon is reflecting light. Well, no worries. In here is not the moon that is reflecting light, but it's the skylight. Something that, let me just draw something more. I know you love my drawings. So I'm going to make this one. My God, I'm getting great in here. I'm so amazed by myself. So imagine that this is the planet Earth. This is a country, okay? So I'm going to make the sky. If I have the sun in here, it's not a scale. The sun is doing this. Let me put another color. You are getting the direct light. And then you are getting indirect light. The indirect light is this one. Ding. And it's going there. What is the difference between those two? This one is being polarized. When the light is passing through the sky, it's getting polarized. And the effect of polarization of light, especially when the sun is going very, very low, is that it's getting reddish. You can do this example very easy if you get, I mean, okay, it's craft, arts and craft. So you can get like an aquarium, put water and 1 liter of milk, okay? And then put a light from like a lamp light on the other side. You will see that the protein of the milk is actually capturing and polarizing light. So it's going to absorb the bluish component of light, and it's going to let through the red. So you are going to see that the light at the other side of the aquarium is actually reddish. It's exactly the same thing that is happening here. So this is the source medium. In here, light is being polarized. Of course, I know this because I remember one day I was looking at the sunset, and I said, why is red? Why? And everything starts with that. And then today we are very lucky because Caravaggio didn't have Wikipedia, but we have Wikipedia, and we have other people that you can ask, hey, why is this happening? And even websites that are doing experiments. So that is very cool. But at the end, you need to understand the polarization. And the polarization means that I can create and synthesize, and this is the coolest part of the theory of the conceptualization. That is that I can create a mathematical approach. I can create a mathematical rule in my head that says, here is white, here is red, here is orange. So the higher I go, the neutral is going to be my lights, the lower I go, reddish. So I already creating an expression. This is the mechanism of observation. You observe something, you understand the idea, you put the idea in your head by synthesizing the rules, and you use the language of physics, which is math. By using maths, you can create an expression inside your head that says, okay, when this is 1, this is 0, this is... It's just a very simple concept. And then when you have that, you have created a new rule. This rule now needs to get synthesized into nuke. Well, that is a great node. It's just one node that is just going to change the color. So from the observation to the rule, to the synthesis, to the abstract in the computer science. That is the way we are going to synthesize that. And you can apply this to anything. It seems that I discovered the warm water, but it's actually something that everybody has been doing for ages. The only thing that I'm doing different in here is that instead of mixing paints or doing an abstract conceptualization, is I'm translating physics into maths into nodes. Nodes, because I'm using Nuke, which is the best software for compositing ever, and I'm using that for synthesizing my thoughts. So if I understand now the concept of the polarization, the first thing that I need is to apply the light that is coming from there, the light, the backlight. Well, the thing, the part of the monster that is being lit by this red light is right behind. So no, you don't see it. The light that you are seeing from the side, something that I'm very scared to call it that, the light grab. The light grab is not grabbing anything. It's just the diffuse of that light. But that diffusion is actually coming from this element in here, which is the diffraction. What is the diffraction? I'm just going to make another example just to showcase the diffraction, and you will see that just that simple light is going to get quite interesting. I'm going to draw a pool. Someone may notice that my pool is looking exactly like my table. It's fine. It's part of the show. So I'm going to put a pole in the middle of the pool. So this is a stick, okay? This is the semi-transparency. Now I'm getting very hardcore. Now, if I drop a rock, this is a rock, and I'm going to drop that rock. I know, my rocks, I have to work on the texture. I'm going to drop the rock in here. So what is going to happen when the rock is touching the pool? It's going to generate this, waves. Right now, I don't care about the sides of the pool, okay? So it's creating waves. What's happening, and this is a real question, what do you think is happening when the waves are touching the pole, the stick? Who else? Tell me. Exactly. What it's going to do is going to replicate. It's not going to split. It's going to replicate. It's going to replicate the exact same wavelength, but not the same intensity because it's absorbing energy, the energy that is getting into the stick. But what is happening is replicating. So when a wave is touching something, the wave replicates. Light is a wave that is expanding in 3 dimensions. So what is happening in here, which is the same concept, is like the waves of this are touching this, and look, it's replicating in there. So if I want to apply that concept in here, I can say that as soon as the sunlight is hitting the leg, it's going to replicate, and it's going to expand. That's why in this poster, you see that light is not expanding like this, like pink, getting filter and passing like that. It's expanding like this. It's replicating the same angular position that it was when it was coming. Why? If this is coming like, I mean, if you are familiar in 3D, there is one infinite light. There is the directional light. I mean, everybody's more or less familiar with that. The directional light, that is, all rays of light are parallel. They are not parallel. They look parallel because we tend to infinite. Why they tend to infinite? Because when you get a circumference that is really, 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 really big, it looks flat. The best example to this is just look at your feet and tell me that the earth is round. If you look at your feet, it's not looking round, it's looking flat. That's why there are so many idiots that think that the earth is flat, because they look at their feet. Okay, instead of looking at your feet, if you are smart to understand the thing that is not parallel, is happening this. If you start zooming and zooming, it's going to look eventually like a straight line. So when it's a straight line, it seems like, oh, light is a streamline, but it's not a straight line. It's going to touch any matter that is in here, and it's going to start replicating. That's why we know is something that is radial. So it's happening this, is this angular. And I don't know if that happens to you. I remember when I was a child, in the window of my bedroom, there was a little hole. And I remember I could see in the opposite side of the window, I could see the tree that was in front of my house upside down. That was something that freaked me out. Because how I get a projection is really cool. And I was seeing that thing, the angular condition of light. See, that right now, we started just talking about sunlight, and we ended by refraction and circumference and the flat earthers and all of that. So this thing is something that we have to keep in consideration if we want to create the effect in there. So let me apply a very simple correction in here. I'm just going to apply the baseline, bless you, in here. So I'm just going to calculate the minimum for this, and now I'm going to get the black levels. So for this minimum lift, no worry, I'm not going to start explaining compositing in here. I care about your lives. So, okay, now I'm going to remove. You have a lot of light in here. If the source of light is coming from behind, you shouldn't get light in there. So how do you do that? This is the control for the light. Something like this. Okay, it's looking really bad. Why? It's because this is the actual, I could say, well, if you want me, I can just get even the perfect level of black, something like this. I mean, yeah, this is the black level. It's supposed to be right. Why it's not looking right? Because there is something that I'm going to show you in another picture. I'm looking at a lot of pictures today. So, on these images, mountains. Have a look at these mountains. Nice. This thing in here is black. Why this shadow is blue? When it's not blue, it's black. Seriously, shadow is not blue. Why is looking bluish? Well, because you are seeing the oxygen, all the gases that are in the atmosphere, particles, and so what you are seeing is the atmospheric occlusion of light. So light that is bouncing in the middle of the air. So that thing is the density. We are painting the subsurface scattering of air. That is like a lot to take on. But you know, this guy did it with water and with that. So we are not that far, actually. So what we want to do is we want to press those colors in order to look like more like that. So I'm going to get this level of density. So I get the offset. Just going to do it very, well, let's do it even worse. Today I can do that. Something like that. Believe it or not, this is looking more realistic than before. Okay, of course it's looking really bad, but why is looking bad? Because it's not having the elements that are making this image integrated. It's light. So I'm going to leave it like that. This is a very flat element. You're going to see that by the end of this comp, this is going to look quite decent. So cancel your appointments. Now the festival is over, and now I'm going to stay here until 3 in the night. So let me get the light of that, and no worries, I'm just going to do very briefly the thing of that light, just to showcase the concept of the wrap. So I'm going to get the sunlight. I'm going to isolate using a keyer. How many compositors are in here that are using Nuke? The rest know what is Nuke? Oh, no worries. Nobody is perfect. It's fine. I understand that. So, okay, I will try to be mild with this, okay? There is no first time always hurts. So, something like this. In a good image, this wouldn't be happening, but it's not a good image, so it's what it is. I didn't have the budget to show something, but it's okay. So, this is the alpha. Let me clamp this. That's it. This is the sun, the isolation of the sun. Okay, good enough. Now, what we are going to do is to apply that concept of the expansion of light, the diffusion when the light is coming. And you know, it's going to be really easy to see that because the light is coming directly to my eyes. So the expansion is going to look, if I am light, my God, it's so beautiful. If I am light, it's going to look like this. So light is going to appear like expanding to you. So how do you do that? I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to isolate the mask of this monster, what is called the alpha. And I'm going to remove that part of the monster in the light. So for that, I'm going to use stencil. So this is the sunlight. Okay, I'm going to make it even stronger. And I'm going to expand it a bit just to make it look slightly more like a circle. Okay, so this is going to be the base light that I want to create to expand. So with this, I want to put this light on top. Plus, okay? Light is always, when we are working in what is called a linear light environment, like many softwares use, Nuke is one of them, you use the plus operation, okay? But I don't want to add the plus over everything because I'm going to have the sun outside the monster, and this is just for the monster. So I'm going to use what is called the ATOP. ATOP is a plus within the alpha. So this is the image now, and you're going to see how different it is. It's exactly the same as before. Why? Because I'm cutting off the sunlight, and then I'm adding that cut off light into the area that was cutting off. It makes no sense right now because I'm removing an area, but this is the base that I'm going to start working because in here, I have this area that is the one that I like to expand. So I'm going to get now this with a shuffle to put it all in one. Here you are. And with this, I'm going to start applying the most important node ever invented, the blur. The blur is actually really, really important because the blur is representing expansion. You can apply a blur like a linear expansion, a Gaussian expansion of neighbors, which is really, really easy. I mean, you are going to see, here you are, see? So this is what I want. But if I go further into the photographic fashion of light, you will see that we don't capture light in a linear fashion. Maths are happening in an arithmetic way. So what I want is to replicate how a sensor is capturing light. See how deep the rabbit hole goes? So if you go there and you continue doing that research, you are going to see in this characteristic curve that is sensitometry, is the science that studies the densities of this of the sensor or the film, that this curve is going to have a rising value that is logarithmic. We capture light in a logarithmic way. So if I expand light in a linear fashion, this is going to look fake. So if I do this, it's looking gloomy. That is something that happens when I see a few comps out there. So if I want to create this comp to be this light expansion, this Gaussian expansion in a logarithmic way, I'm going to use a node that is log to lin, and I'm going to reset these values that are meant for the logarithmic Sinion. That is another thing. I'm not going to enter in that. And in here, I'm going to expand this to there. Actually, the other way around. Lin to log, log to lin. Here you are. Okay, now this blur is happening in a logarithmic fashion. It's so logarithmic that as soon as I go very far, it's just going to diffuse all the way. So now we have the right expansion, the wavelength. Now that we need is the intensity. And the intensity, when we are talking about the amount of light, is just a multiplication. So I'm going to use multiply. So I'm going to increase, and I'm going to play with those two values. This should be the value that actually is recorded in here. This is just an 8-bit image downloaded from Google. But if this was a real image, maybe this would be like value, I don't know, 100? Well, it's a bit over the top. Something like that. So I'm just going to make sure to clamp. This light that is happening in here, I'm just going to apply a toe. To prevent the light going deeper than that. So what you are doing when you are expanding now is creating that little expansion. And this is the way light is going to behave. So when you are doing this, what you are feeling is you are losing quality of the edges. Your edges are not looking as nice and defined as before. Actually, this little thing is completely gone. Well, that is right. Compositing is destroying the image with style. So it's destroying the image as the sensor is actually destroying the image, because the image that we are capturing in the sensor is not perfect. I can give you an example of that. This is the original image that was supposed to be there. Have a look at the black levels. You don't know where this arm is finishing and when the back is starting. So this is a very easy way to understand that images that capture by the camera are really bad, but they are good enough. And it's quite fun because Peter Jackson wanted to make the experience of cinema so cool with The Hobbit that he was shooting at double the speed of the usual frame rate that you get for cinema. Instead of 24 frames per second, he was using 48. And people was looking, this is looking crap, it's looking like cheap TV. Well, it's because cinema is a language. So even if this image is looking that bad, it's actually the bad that we are used to. And that is all related to this element that we saw in here. That is the sensitometry, this thing. It would be really nice if light would be just one line, perfectly linear, perfectly capturing every single step. But it's not like that. You have even a flat level in here, that is the base and fog, that is where the sensor has not enough light to capture the detail. So that's why we get light as is looking. So with this, it's just to tell you that you can replicate this element of the diffraction in that fashion. Then you can add the color to that. You can add other elements, the diffusion through the atmosphere. You can add the secondary light, which is the light of the sky. But all of that is all coming from one single idea, which is what I'm looking at when I'm looking at a scene. Usually when we are doing compositing, what we do is we observe what is on the scene and we try to replicate the same thing. I go beyond that. I see something that is behaving in a certain way, but there are certain things that I'm not seeing in there that should be there, okay? So for the second example of understanding the components of light, I'm going to showcase another element, something that is even cooler for me. What I like the most about cinema is not what you see on the screen, but what you don't see on the screen. And there is a genre that is especially good for that, which is horror. Horror is not about, oh my God, the monster is so ugly. No, horror is about, what is that sound? What is happening? Monsters are really, really more scary when you don't see them. So we have to create the same thing. We have to tell the story using narrative elements that are not on the scene. So for this, I'm going to use this element. In here. And this is just a regular living room, no big deal. I can even ask you, what time is it? Is that relevant? What time is it in this picture? 2 p.m. Okay, why are you based on that? Why? I will say light is coming from here. There must be a window in there, 2 windows, one there, one there. Light is coming this way. There is a certain element in here that is telling me the sun is coming low. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 12 pixels in here that are telling me the sun is going low, because this is slightly warmer than that. So by just having those pixels, I can understand what's the time, more or less. Of course, the direction of light, there is something here that is coming. There is no background. But it's kind of, this can be for a certain drama feeling. But what if I want to do something more, I love the magical terms. I love when clients, I had a client that once told me, can you make it more magical? And it's like, I don't have a button for magic in here. Oh, let's add more magic. For then, more magic was blue for some reason. I don't know. But yeah, working with clients, that is something to talk about in another place. So what can you do in this image to enhance a certain definition? So I'm going to use the different elements of this. I'm going to remove that component. Those are the multipass. I'm just using 5 passes: global illumination, lighting, reflection, refraction, specular. Global illumination is the diffuse light. The lighting is just the direct light. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to work mainly with those two. I'm going to start with the direct light. The sun is low, so it's more orange, reddish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this multiply, and I'm going to get, I'm going to get this higher again. And I'm going to work with controls that are very human-like. The controls TMI, temperature, magenta, and intensity, are controls that are relative to the perception of light. We are very good in the perception of this movement of coordinates. If you see in here, in this color wheel, movement is going to happen in an X fashion. So, like that. It's way easier to understand balances when you are doing one way or another. It's very difficult to find the balance of a triangle, which is working with the RGB system. The RGB system is actually a triangle. It's very good for technique that are related to numbers, but really bad for perception. So you never work with perception in RGB terms. Perception is really good TMI. So if I want to make the direct light, the light that is coming directly from the sun, I want to make it more orange. I don't see my computer. So something like this. Okay, I'm going to look there because this is what you are seeing. So, okay, slightly more reddish. Would it be possible to keep me in the darkness for a second? I mean, I'm not interested anyway. Okay, this is looking, oh, actually, I'm going to change the color space to this. Ah, much better. Now, definitely, I have to look in there. So, this is the direct light. Now, I'm going to use the indirect light. Remember the drawing that I was doing before? That you love my drawings? Remember that I said there are two components of light: the direct light that is happening with this beautiful polarization, but there is another element in here, which is this one. That is the diffusion, the scattering that is happening in the sky. So this light is actually happening, but it's getting the color of the sky that is bluish. So we have orange in there and bluish in there. Another thing, the lower is the sun, the less light you are going to get, because the position that you are getting from the sun in here is reaching less places than there, because they are getting occluded by the surface, the terrain. So even the position of the sun is influencing the intensity, not just the color. So when you are moving the sun in that direction, you can get more white lights or more reddish, but actually you can get more light or less light. So you have two different components, one for color, warmth intensity. Okay, if we transfer that in here, now we get the secondary light. Well, the secondary light means that the light of the sun is going down, so I'm going to put in here now a bluish tone. Something like that. And if you know what are the components of light, you are going to realize that there is one component that is very special for us, which is the specularity. The specularity is the ability of the surface to represent the source of light, but it's not a component that is showing the element that is touching. It's showing the ability of reflection of the source light, which means the specular and the direct light should be the same. So I'm going to get my specular with the same color. You are going to see the specular in there. And I'm going to give more intensity. And I'm going to give slightly more reddish tones. Now, of course, it's not like a different picture, but I enhance different elements from this picture, from this to this. London, Malibu. See? So you are actually, I mean, it's fun because it's true. In here, the outside, what you see outside, the weather, the position, the time, is very different. And you can make this kind of change, and you can make many other changes. You can tell the story in a different way. So lighting, when we are doing the process of getting the CG ready, lighting is just the first step. The compositing is not just like a pan that you put everything together to cook. The compositing is what is going to give the character, what is going to showcase the camera, what is going to make things to be real. The CG can be the most beautiful CG ever, but if it's not well comped, it's going to look like that. It's going to look like effects. And I don't like the effects to be shown. I like to see the storytelling, okay? So with this, you can apply the same technique for many other things. You can continue doing this element up to getting something like this. No, you don't want to see that. I mean, I can showcase the thing that I was talking about before, the light grab, but it's just going to be a lot of technical stuff that maybe is not interesting. So what I would like now is, if we have a bit of time, I think we have a bit of time, I would like to address things that you would like to know about this. So we can have like a Q&A, if may I?
Yeah. Q&A now.
Yeah?
Yeah, sure.
And I can demonstrate whatever you like. I have plenty of material in here to demonstrate things.
So hands up if you've got questions, guys. Cool. I'm going to go to Nicola first because she's closer. There you go.
How do you think like advancements with game engines technology, and especially with Nuke's new Unreal Reader, how that's going to affect things like lighting for things on set with volumes and stuff like stagecraft?
Oh, that's a very interesting one. Well, that is just going to make our lives more complicated because we have more technologies to mix. I think it's really interesting because virtual production is now becoming quite mainstream. So having the ability to work with the raw material directly from Unreal or for any real-time render is something that is going to give faster results. But I'm just a bit concerned about being faster with that because there is still a process of realizing the thing. I mean, machines are really fast. Humans are still the same speed. So when you get a very fast workflow, it happens, and I feel with clients when I'm working is you have clients that are hedonistic. They just want everything now fast. And you start losing quality because the artists are not having enough room for reflecting in all of that. So it's really cool because Unreal, for instance, especially the version 5, is keeping a lot of stuff in there, but it's not finished. It needs to be somehow work, and still, there are still many issues working with volumes and all of that. So we need to understand that there is going to be some things that are going to be easier, some others that are going to be not that easy. So it's going to change the profile of the artist, because we are going to need to become slightly more generalist. But I suspect the workflow is not going to get that much faster as the render engine is. For games, it's paradise, because yeah, you don't need to come that. But as soon as you get actors, real actors in there, everything changes. So that's why you have a bit of both worlds. Thanks for your question.
Thank you.
Okay. Although this isn't planned, what made you just learn about light?
Sorry?
Although I didn't plan this question prior to this week, what made you learn about light? I wonder.
I don't think I got the question. Sorry, I'm Spanish.
That's
So
okay. Why do you learn about light?
how?
How?
How? Yeah. Oh, so yeah, I suspect I understood you well. Yeah, so cancel your appointments. So it's actually something that starts by curiosity. If you are curious about something, you're just going to start digging. Sometimes you start digging and you end in a very, very deep hole, but that is why you are an artist. You are an artist because you want to get deep into something to discover yourself. So it's through the process of learning something that you are going to discover yourself. By understanding light, what I just discovered is, for instance, I think, well, I know it's not a thing, it's something that is real. I was the worst student of maths ever in the 60s in the high school. I was really, really bad. Because for me, it was just numbers. Well, and numbers are boring. But as soon as you put, numbers are boring because they're just signs for me. Because they are not something. But when you start putting the numbers associated to something, for me, when I see this and I'm using maths, I don't see numbers. I'm using digitalized art, so I'm using numbers. But for me, I see colors. I see red, I see blue, and I see that those numbers can be handled using maths. So when I use the mathematical operations, for me are just like modeling tools. I can get from a linear source of light, I can model the light in order to make it look like that. And I can feel when you get a highlight and you feel like that highlight is very bright and it's not making sense with the rest of, I can model that light using mathematical operations. So when I started learning light is when I started learning physics, and I love maths. Now I really love mathematics. I mean, the highest shame that I have is that I didn't pay attention to mathematical classes when I was at school or high school. And recently, a few years ago, I paid for a master in mathematical course. It cost me a fortune. And I was studying the exact same thing I was studying at school. But I was prepared to learn. So being prepared to learn is just being open. So that's all you need, is just being open to ask yourself questions, and don't be afraid to search for your own answers. Because at the end of the day, the answer is not important. What is important is what you do with the answers. And I see many people using different methodologies for getting the same shot, and they both are beautiful. I don't like Picasso more than Van Gogh or more than Caravaggio. They are different styles. And that is what we love, is to see the person, the artist, in the art. Thanks for your question.
Thanks. He
Sorry?
said, how awesome to hear.
Thank you.
More questions? Oh, sorry.
What considerations do you need to make for characters compared to environments or even hero assets?
For me, they are all pixels. They are just pixels, seriously. It's just, I see just highlights, black levels, color, direct light, indirect light. It makes no difference at all, because if something is not working, if it's not working on the foreground or not working in the background, it's still not working. So you have to make it work, whatever it is. I can say on top of that, that if it's a close-up, the character matters a lot. Mm-hmm. If it's in a very big establishing shot, the environment is more important. So it depends on what you have, but they are all pixels.
Thank you.
You got a question?
Hey, what is like your most proud scene that you've created?
Oh my God. I'm ashamed of all of them. No, and actually, with each one, there is something that you learn. And I always say, because that is a question that they ask me a lot, I will say that I'm the most proud of the first, because it was the first, and the last, because it's the one that I am at my highest in every moment. But I'm not a fan of the, there are even things that I haven't watched. I was talking to Jackie this morning. I wasn't a fan of Harry Potter when I worked on Harry Potter, the last two parts. And everybody was so excited about me working on Harry Potter. I was, yeah, well, it's not bad. I think I watched 2 or 3 of the movies, and I was like, eh. Now I'm a super fan for some reason. And I'm really proud. I was working on the team, working on the nose of Voldemort. So I'm very proud every time I tell, when people say, oh, what have you done on Harry Potter? And I done the Voldemort nose. Really? Wasn't that makeup? And there is a part of me that is like, seriously? I have been working 6 months in there just for you to tell me it was makeup, but at the same time, it's like, it's actually very cool. Nobody noticed what I did, which is at the end of the day, the purpose of being working on visual effects. So if you work on visual effects, don't expect to be a superstar and everybody saying, oh my God, look at that integration, look at the black levels, oh, this guy know about the conceptualization of light, look at, no. When you go with a friend and you are working in visual effects, most of the time it's like, this is my shot. What shot? Shit! Because it's so brief. But at the end, it's so cool because you are creating part of the magic. I can say that if Harry Potter has magic, it's in part because of me. How cool is that? So I'm better than Hogwarts, man. So that is the thing. I'm proud of all of them. I like Harry Potter because now, even watching with my son that is here with me, I love to see children scared because of that guy. It sounds really cruel, but it's like that. You see, when you feel like someone, I work, for instance, in a film that I never watched, that is 127 Hours by Danny Boyle. I remember I started watching the film, and I was sitting next to Danny Boyle in a screener, and I went out because I was going to throw up in the moment. It's a guy about cutting off an arm because he was stuck in a canyon, and he got cutting the arm with a little knife like this. I mean, it's very weird, and it's a real story. I just couldn't. And I was looking at my own work, and I was disgusted at the point that, I'm not kidding, I was going to faint. So I'm very proud of that. I made myself throw up. How cool is that? So there are many things that you can, there are good stories with even the people that I have been working on every show, the things that you learn, people that share with you. I I don't remember the shots that I've done, but I remember the people that I was working with. And that is the most important part. So now when I have to choose a job, I prefer a good team of people than a good team of pixels.
Any more? Okay.
Did you start off directing and then go into visual effects, or did you start in visual effects and then go into directing, and how was that process of transitioning between those different careers?
It was both an accident. I wasn't supposed to be here, mostly. I always wanted to be a director. On the way, I was even an actor for a time. And I worked even with Antonio Banderas, directing. I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to be a director, but I always thought that I didn't have stories to tell. So it is really sad when you have to spend a lot of time and you don't have anything to say. So I was studying at film school in my last year. And right before, 2 months before the finishing my film school, I was having my major in cinematography. With Vittorio Storaro was my teacher. Vittorio Storaro is the cinematographer for Apocalypse Now. He has 3 Oscars. I was the super fan. By the way, I discovered he was the professor of the school, and the school was less than 2 minutes walk of my place. And I thought the school was in the US in the beginning, so I was like, what? So it was like by pure case, I was in there. And 2 months before, a earthquake destroyed my house. It's this simple and radical thing. I'm not kidding. It was a earthquake in Italy. I was living in Italy. And a earthquake destroyed my house. I lost everything but my pajamas and my underwear. I was living with that for weeks. I was living in a refugees camp. And when I lost everything, I have a blessing, which is you have nothing to lose. So when you have nothing to lose, I was also very, very lucky to have friends and people that didn't know me that just wanted me to send me to London to study and to prosper in a career of visual effects, because I was always obsessed with computers and doing my own comms and doing things and learning. In that time, it was 2009. In that time, it wasn't that popular to find materials online. When I have nothing to lose, I just needed, honestly, I needed money to pay, because the only thing that remains from the house was the mortgage. So I had to pay the mortgage for a house that I didn't have, and I had to pay also for a rent in London that is not cheap. So I just needed to learn, and I needed more money. So how can I do to get more money? Let's do tutorials. My English by then was even worse than now. And I was learning English by doing recording tutorials. I recorded my first tutorials that is 7 hours long. And I was like, seriously, I want to finish this. But I need it. The best thing that you can have as an artist is the need to create. Whatever it is coming from inside, that is not unusual. It's not someone just wake up in the morning and say, oh my God, I want to direct Jurassic Park. It's not like that. It's like, I need to pay my rent. I need to pay my mortgage. It's just more simple. So you just do, and you know, they offer me to record tutorials. After the first tutorial, it was a bestseller because everybody was like, nobody was even talking about my English. And I was like, oh my God, I was so concerned about that. After that, they offered me all other things. And I'm very bad at saying no. That is my main problem. So it's an accident that I'm here. By the way, I rebuilt my house, and I have a very nice studio as well. But you keep in that. You learn that if you behave as you have nothing to lose, that is really cool. So now the problem is I have a lot to lose. But if you don't risk all, you better stay home. So that is the only thing. So I did a short film because one day I was tired. Seriously, I was sick and tired of working in the office as a visual effects artist, and I was really, really sick. So I say, I'm not doing this with passion. So if I'm not doing this willing, being an artist, not willing to be an artist, that is something very sad. If you can, be a plumber. Be a plumber specialized in boilers. That is a lot of money in there. And you don't need interviews, you don't need bookings, and it's really fast money. But if you want to be an artist, it's because that fills you up. You feel, you are an artist. My father told me, you have to be an artist because you cannot do anything else. And I said, sadly, I cannot do anything else. So, okay, you can be an artist. So I am doing in every moment what I want to do. I want to be here talking to you right now because that is what fills me now. It feels to help people, to get beautiful comms. There was a time that I was doing the comms. Now I can do the comms through you, through everyone that is listening to me. So that is a joy that I have. And the day I just stop having fun, traveling to Nottingham, because it's really nice, and I will stop doing that. Right now, the problem that I have is I'm supervising, I am developing a film, and I'm doing even talks. One day I will stop. Well, you know, I have no plans right now. So the day I die, I'm going to rest for a long time. Until then, I'm just going to do everything that I can.
I could listen to you all day, but I think we've only got time for one more question. So one more question. Everyone's, that hand? No. Oh, maybe you just wowed them all and they've gone. Oh, go on then, Jake. Finish it off.
So how often would you have to make a decision on making something scientifically accurate compared to maybe having to stylize it a bit and kind of fake it to make it artistically kind of what the client wants?
Okay. Well, I will say that I always use an empirical approach to a shot, and then the storytelling is on top of that. But the empirical approach is like breathing. You don't think about you have to breathe, but as soon as you don't have air, you die. It's that simple. So when I analyze something, especially as a supervisor, I just need to help a team of artists, and they are coming from different aspects. So you have to talk to each one in their own language. But at the end of the day, they are all producing light in a way or another. So that is the language that is uniform to everybody. So the artistic part is coming at the very, very, very end or in the very, very, very beginning. So the artistic part is what I do when I design the shot as a visual effects supervisor. I design the shot with a certain intention. I set the lights with the DP, and I create the artistic intent. But that is why the role is called supervisor, because the only thing you have to do is just to make sure everybody is doing what they need, make sure that everybody have what they need in the time they need it, and at the end you ensure that that was preserving your intention. So the end is just recording with the beginning, but everything that I do is based on that. When I analyze a green screen that I have to shoot, is like how the light should be in there, and that is going to trigger what is behind. And then I need to go to the director. The director is going to meet with the DP, and that is going to trigger, again, questions. I'm not the one to answer questions. Yeah, sometimes you have to answer, but I prefer to reply with more questions. So that is what makes, at the end of the day, when I'm working as a supervisor, it's not my film. So I need to make sure the director has his own answers. So I'm helping them to get the answers through my questions. And that is the thing. So the artistic intent, directors, they just want to tell the story. So in the beginning, they tell you, I want this, this, this. And usually when you are in dailies, when you are showing the work, directors are very, oh yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love it. It's very strange that our directors say, you know that edge that you see in there? They get obsessed sometimes with things that are nonsense because they are insecure, because all artists are insecure. But everything is very basic. It's like, I wanted a blue man in there jumping. If it's blue, yeah. It's a man, yeah. It's jumping, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. That's it. Then you can make the blue turquoise. You can make the man beautiful, long hair. But it's not running, it's jumping. So that is the thing.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Victor. You've been incredible. Let's give him a round of applause and you can go. And you can go, guys. You can go. I'll see the FE guys downstairs in P2 for 12, for Alex Hollings, and I'll see the rest of you this afternoon for Hugo and Son.
I mean it. That thing that I said about you, I think
Don't be like that. Wait, make a new question. Don't do that.
Oh yeah, of course. I started as a photographer.
Oh, did you? Yeah, yeah.
Are you leaving soon? Or are you just going to stay around? We are going to have lunch together. I hope so, yeah.
Yeah, we prefer to take it now, kind of. So if you want to have lunch there, you can have it on the house. You're more than welcome to, or you can go grab it.
Oh, no, I'll have lunch with you guys.
Jackie, you got another microphone?
I'm
I'm going to go alone to another
Thanks,
place.
okay.
Bye.
I just didn't want to presume you wanted to leave.
Is there a way to put an audience camera back to Becky
So she's getting the feed. Oh, she's getting that entire vision feed. So Zoom's doing all of the broadcast. Right. So she won't get any. She won't get any of the crowd. Unless we say, can we show you the crowd? Right. Okay. Ro has to do that. Right. Okay. We can do it in the little test that we just did. Yeah. Done.
Do you want to just move the left?
Yep.
That was just doing the taste, it should be through there. How about I? Might be in the customer's tray. Yeah. What, sorry? What about him? Yeah, probably. Give me a sec. Is there not one on the tall stuff? Back up there. Thank you. There's some gaff over there if you want any. I'll just put this over there and run upstairs. Yeah, that's the two extra ones in their place. No, you got two extra ones. Two on the side, yeah. Yeah. She's on the call now, apparently. So. Okay. Yeah, we're having to do a disguise currently. How are you guys? Alright. I'm Brian, I'm tech manager here. Very good. So, go on